Amol is a Städtel beim Breck von Nester in Tor, eingewickt in Chaloimes, gewinn as a Städtel amol. Gelebt sich dort Jiden wie Jiden, in Frieden und Eiges und so. Von deures verwurzelte Teuschwim, gewinn as a Städtel amol.
A guten Tag, Baruch habo. Welcome back to aliīs vōcibus, where we explore the world's wonderful, underappreciated languages. Today we're diving into Yiddish, the heritage language of most Jews whose European roots lie north of the Alps. And no, not just Eastern Europe. The story is bigger, older, and way more interesting. Introducing any language in a few minutes is tough enough, but Yiddish is one of those topics I could happily ramble about for hours. So let's keep this tight, or at least pretend to. Is Yiddish related to Hebrew? Short answer, no. Long answer, absolutely not. Yiddish uses lots of Hebrew and Aramaic vocabulary, but structurally it's Germanic, related to German, Dutch, English, Frisian, and others. Hebrew, meanwhile, is Semitic, related to Arabic, Aramaic, and some of the Ethiopian languages. Different families, different histories. The shared alphabet exists only because Jewish writers used the writing system they already had. The word Yiddish literally means Jewish. Originally it was Yiddish-Deutsch, Jewish German, which is exactly how it began. Older varieties of German seasoned with Hebrew and Aramaic expressions, plus a few Greek, Old Italian, and Old French strays picked up along the migration routes from the Middle East into Europe, into Ashkenaz, the Jewish name for the German-speaking lands. Meanwhile, the spelling of Semitic words stayed Hebraic, but pronunciation became thoroughly Germanized in Yiddish. For example, the word for peace, or actually, more correctly, wholeness. Ancient Hebrew? Shalom. Modern Hebrew, Shalom. Yiddish, Sholem. Sabbath. Ancient Hebrew, Shabbat. Modern Hebrew, Shabbat. Yiddish, Shabbos. If your ears perked up, yes, it really does sound like someone gave Hebrew a hearty Rhineland makeover. How Yiddish began. Around the 9th century, the ancestors of today's Ashkenazi Jews arrived from the Mediterranean lands into the Frankish Empire, mainly in the Upper Rhineland. Unlike the Frisians, Saxons, and Slavs, the Jews were not conquered or converted by the Franks. They were voluntary immigrants, and they refused Christianization. Combine that with the education, their international networks, and the business success, and you get resentment, suspicion, and predictable consequences. Stigmatization, accusations, ghettos, special badges, and centuries of legal restrictions, and existence as perennial outsiders. But linguistically, something crucial happened. They began speaking the local German dialects, first with the Christian neighbors, then among themselves. Among themselves, they sprinkled in Hebrew and Aramaic words, wrote the whole thing in Hebrew script, and used it as their everyday language, the Mameloshen, mother tongue, as opposed to Loshen Kodesh, holy tongue, reserved for religious and legal purposes. That's the birth of Yiddish. West to east, a big move. Starting in the 11th century, especially between the 13th and 15th, huge numbers of West Europeans moved east into Slavic and Baltic areas. Jews did too. Why? Anti-Semitism in the West, expulsions, the Black Death, and in some regions, Eastern rulers actively inviting Jews to settle. Incentives included fewer restrictions, the right to own land, and access to trades Jews were barred from in Western Europe. These settlers saw themselves as Germans, and the language as Deutsch, German. Two Jewish men meeting for the first time might greet each other with Leb Deutsch, Master German. But the language changed a lot. Contact with Polish, Ukrainian, and other Slavic languages reshaped pronunciation, grammar, and especially vocabulary. Yiddish absorbed loads of new terms, especially for farming and crafts, which Jews could finally engage in. This is how Eastern Yiddish developed. growing apart from Western Yiddish and from German itself, and both types of Yiddish are further divided into several dialect groups. This split sharpens. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Haskalah, the Jewish Enlightenment, encouraged Western Jews to modernize and shift from Yiddish to German. Western Yiddish declined rapidly, and by the 20th century it was essentially extinct. Eastern European Jews, however, held on to their traditions and their Deutsch. By then, the gap between Yiddish and German was huge. A German speaker might follow a simple Yiddish sentence until the conversation turns to farming, Jewish tradition, philosophy, or anything more ambitious than "Hi, how are you?" It's also worth noting that Yiddish preserves several Middle High German words that are missing in modern German or have shifted in meaning. The catastrophe. You know what comes next, or you should. During the Holocaust, about 6 million Jews were murdered, and with them, the majority of the world's Yiddish speakers. Post-war assimilation and early Israeli discouragement of diaspora languages reduced speakers' numbers further. Some survivors also distanced themselves from Yiddish because of its resemblance to German, the language of the persecutors. Before World War II, Yiddish had 11 to 13 million speakers. Today, estimates range between 500,000 and 1 million. Yiddish today. Yiddish is still spoken worldwide in the US, Canada, Argentina, Israel, Britain, Belgium, France, and elsewhere. The largest groups are Haredim, also known as ultra-Orthodox. But there is also a vibrant secular Yiddish cultural world. Literature, theater, music, and scholarship all are experiencing a revival. Some activists push for standardized Yiddish, while others fear it threatens local dialects. But this tension is familiar. You see it in Scots, Occitan, and Low Saxon. Too much standardization can feel artificial, too little can endanger the entire language. Today, Yiddish is an official minority language in Belarus, the Netherlands, Poland, Sweden, Ukraine, Romania, and Russia. And now, let's end with some naturally spoken Eastern Yiddish.
Die Menschen, die haben gehört, ach, sie redet dort, man hört ein jüdisches Wort. Menschen sind gewinn bederklar freundlich, Menschen haben gekannt Jiddisch, haben gewollt mitschmissen. Ich denke, wir sind einmal gewinn in einer Bäckerei auf dem Lower East Side, wir haben dort gemacht, da haben wir ethnografische Forscharbeit mit Rachmilen. Ein älterer Jid hat gehört, wie man redet Jiddisch zwischen sich. Ist gewinn stark zufrieden, hat sich weggesetzt mit uns, genommen reden mit uns, so weiter. Ist also geschehen nicht, das von Zeit zu Zeit ist das geschehen, es ist nicht gewinn eine seltene Sache. Man steht auf der Gas mit der Freund, man redet auf Jiddisch. Menschen hören Jiddisch, sie reden mit uns.
Oi, there is so much more to say about Yiddish, but you get the gist for now. So, for this time, sei gesund.